Tuesday morning, September 10, 2019, and it's a day that's, a cloudy day in Fenway Park and around Boston because last night the Yankees officially eliminate the Red Sox from the American League East title. So there will be a new king in the American League East as the world champs have been eliminated from division consideration as well as close to being eliminated officially in the wild card race. The Yankees win 5-0 behind a great outing from Big Maple, James Paxton, who extended his winning career streak to a career-best 8 consecutive starts, and homers from Austin Romine and Gio Urshela. The Yankees win 5-0. Their magic number in the East is 9, and the Red Sox, the king is dead. Good morning, everybody, from Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. That's just a start to what happened last night. There was a lot of action. Did you catch the Astros and the A's? It's kind of like the little boy and the old man, and the little boy thinks, I'm going to be king, but the old man says, but not yet. Did you see what happened in the first inning? Mike Fiers, who had been pitching, he's been the ace of the Oakland staff, right? He pitched well last night in the first inning. Fiers gives up 9 runs. Yes, 9 runs. Home runs to Bregman, his 35th. How about Jordan Alvarez and his 2 home runs last night? Michael Brantley homered. The final score, there's more to talk about, but the final score last night was Houston 15 and Oakland nothing. Oh, wow. Robinson Chirinos went 3 for 4 with 2 homers. It was Houston's 5th win in a row. And if you remember, they scored 21 runs on Sunday. So that's 36 runs over a 2-game span for the Houston Astros. Last night, who was the beneficiary of that? It was Zach Greinke. But here are some factoids about that game last night. The Astros became the 4th team in the modern era, that's since 1900, to outscore their opponents by 35 runs or more in a 2-game span, and the first since the Red Sox, 36 runs, and that was June of 1953. Do the math. That's 66 years ago. That's a pretty good record. With 7 home runs on Monday, the Astros are now only 1 home run shy of tying their single-season franchise record of 249 that they set in 2000. You think they might break that one? And they set a club record with their 56th home win of the season. They had 55 wins in 1980. They matched that in 1989. Half of their wins are against the American League West. Check this out. Houston is 28-2 against American League West teams at home in Minute Maid Park this year. And finally, another factoid. There are a lot from this game. When you win 15-0, you get a lot of factoids. The Astros hit back-to-back homers twice last night, which ties the club record for most back-to-back homers in a season. That was 12, set in 2000. Jose Alvarez went 3 for 3 last night, drove in 2. His season average now sits at 307 for the year. Michael Brantley went 2 for 3. He's at 323 for the year. As I mentioned Bregman earlier, 1 for 2 with 3 RBIs and a walk. He's at 299. Jordan Alvarez, 2 for 5 last night with the 2 homers. He's sitting at 316 for the year. And Chirinos, who I touted in the preseason as a catcher you'd want to have. I mean, anybody on Houston's team is a player you'd probably want to have. He went 3 for 4 last night. He scored 2 runs. He drove in 6. And from a home run perspective, Bregman now has 35. Alvarez has 24. And remember, Alvarez has only played in just over 70 games. Project that out, if you will. Chirinos has 17. Altuve has 26. And Brantley has 21. What an outing last night. So I'm just highlighting some news. I'm not going through the box scores. I'm going through that box score because it's so impressive. Did you see what happened in Flushing, New York last night? Pete Alonso has now hit number 46 and number 47. Jacob deGrom struck out 11. You know, the rookie home run mark was set by Aaron Judge, 52 home runs in a season. And now Alonso, he's only 5 away from tying that record. And, of course, deGrom was classic deGrom last night. He goes 7 innings, gives up only 3 hits, strikes out 11, gives up the 1 run. And Lugo, what an outing, 2 innings, 4 strikeouts, no hits, no walks. The Mets win. They are clinging to their playoff life right now. It stops the streak of the It stops the streak of the Diamondbacks. And Ketel Marte did something last night you won't see very much this year. He had the golden sombrero, struck out 4 times, 0 for 4. It lowered his season average to 328. The Diamondbacks only mustered 3 hits off of deGrom. So there you go. The Mets hanging on, and let's take a look at those wild card standings. That's what this is leading to. And let's start in the National League, where the Washington Nationals still lead the wild card by 2.5 games over the Cubs. The Cubs lead that second spot by only 2 games over Milwaukee. The Brewers have won 7 of 10 and 4 in a row, and they've done it without Mike Moustakas hitting in that lineup. Arizona's 2.5 games out of the wild card. The Phillies are 3 out. They lost last night to Atlanta. And New York, they're 4 games out of the wild card. It's going to be tough sledding. The Mets only have 19 games to go. They've got to jump, 4 teams to get to that second wild card. It's going to be a tough row. In fact, when you're down more than 2 games with this much left, I just think it's going to be a difficult task. Arizona, I guess, has a chance. Milwaukee, a chance. Depends on how the Cubs will play. You know, the Cubs have been a Jekyll and Hyde team. They've been great at home typically this year and horrible on the road. So we'll see how it goes. Let's take a look at the American League wild card, where Tampa Bay, they have a 1.5 lead over Oakland. Of course, Oakland lost last night to Houston in a big way. Cleveland trails the second wild card now by a half game. Cleveland wins last night over the Angels 6-2. Shane Bieber, spectacular again. He has had an incredible year. He went 7 innings, struck out 8. His ERA now sits at 3.17. He's 14-7 on the year. Carrasco pitched the 8th last night and struck out 2 batters. And don't you know, every time he gets on the mound that these teammates are just even more fired up. I mean, this is a guy who, you're talking about having struggles in your life or battles in your life. I mean, nothing is tougher probably physically than battling cancer. He had leukemia, on the shelf since May. He's back in the bullpen. Badge of courage goes to Carlos Carrasco and the Indians. And it's going to take something like that, I think, to perk the Indians up and get them over that hump. I still think Oakland and Tampa, I've been saying it for 2 weeks, are the favorites to take the wild card spots. Cleveland now only behind Oakland by half a game. Kipnis went 2 for 4. Lindor didn't get a hit. Santana didn't get a hit. And those guys have to hit for Cleveland to make a run here over the last 2 weeks. Nico Horner makes his major league debut. I went to the chat room yesterday afternoon. There was no show on. I just went to see what was going on. And I posed a question about Nico Horner, and I got a sort of a vanilla negative response back that he really wasn't expected to do much for fantasy. Well, last night in his debut, Nico Horner goes 3 for 5, 4 RBIs. He hit a triple. And if you're in a league that counts triples, you know those are rare commodities. You can't bank on a triple. But Nico Horner, with a wow kind of start debut to his career, the Cubs needed that. They took that. They ran with it. They beat San Diego 10-2. You know, Nico Horner, let's talk about him for a minute for fantasy. He's good batting average, probably not a lot of homers, but if he can give you a good batting average, he may be out there on a waiver wire. He was a number 1 draft pick in 2018. He started this season. They skipped single A. They skipped all that. They started him at double A in the minor leagues. He's out of college, okay? So he went to college, came out after 3 years, so he had a head start there, began the year at Double-A, progressed up to Iowa in Triple-A. The Cubs, with this injury situation with Baez, they now call him up to play shortstop. Probably the second most demanding position, being pitcher, catcher being a regular lineup. Of course, pitcher is the most demanding. But on the regular lineup, catcher being the most demanding, shortstop being second. On the Chicago Cubs, who are fighting for their playoff lives to stay in the wild card. And what a performance yesterday by the rookie in his debut. They're playing San Diego. Let's see if the beat goes on today. But I tell you a beat that did go on. Nick Castellanos continues to rake. Absolutely rake. He got 3 hits yesterday. And hitting's contagious. Caratini got a couple. Hayward got a couple. Ben Zobrist back in the lineup leading off last night got a hit. Kyle Schwarber got 2 hits. The Cubs win, as Harry would say, 10-2, and continue their playoff quest in the National League wildcard race. If you had the forethought to pick up Trent Grisham yesterday in fantasy for the Milwaukee Brewers, then I want you to pick some lottery numbers for me today. Grisham, a left-handed bat, platoon player. They're playing the Marlins, a right-handed starter. Grisham leads off. 5 for 6. Are you stinking kidding me? He hit a double. He hit a triple. A homer short of the cycle. Great game. And in the spot where the Brewers need it, he came through. Grandal hitting out of the 2-hole, got 2 hits. So their top 2 hitters went a combined 7 for 11 last night. And when your top 2 go 7 for 11, you're clicking. And they were clicking last night in Miami against the Marlins. Big win for the Brewers as they continue their quest for a playoff spot. And the Brewers, I don't really give them much of a chance because of their pitching. But last night they got decent pitching, great hitting. Jordan Lyles, traded over from Pittsburgh. He only went 4 1/3, but he gave up only 1 run. The bullpen, Albers came in, got the win. Peralta blew up a little bit in the 6th inning. But after that, Jackson Black and Faria shut down over the last 3 1/3 the Miami offense. They were able to conserve Hader, so he didn't pitch last night. Gave him a night off. He'll be fresh today if needed. So way to go, Brewers. Way to keep it going with adversity. You don't have your best pitching. You don't have Mike Moustakas, and you still find ways to win. So kudos to the Brewers as they continue their games today against the Miami Marlins. And so we're into fantasy playoffs for baseball, of course. And I want to go through some hot hitters. And these are guys, maybe if they're on your team, congrats. If they're not, I'm just going to tell you who's been hot over the last 7 days. Maybe there's some players on this list that may actually be on a waiver wire. I'm going to try to give you those. Of course, you've got Castellanos and Austin Meadows and Realmuto and Yelich. None of those guys are on the waiver wire, let's face it. So I could talk about how hot they've been because they have been over the last 7. Eugenio Suarez is hitting 500 over the last 7, for example. But they're not going to be available on your waiver wire. I want to look at some players who may be. So Will Myers, there's a chance. Over his last 7 games, he's hitting 579. He's 11 for his last 19. Yasmani Grandal, 9 for his last 26. That's a 346 clip. Starling Castro, hitting 321 over his last 7 games, 9 for 28. How about Rufton Odor? He's been the whipping boy in fantasy all year. Just can't get it done. Well, over his last 7 games, he is 9 for 20. That's a 450 average. Probably available on some waiver wires. He's hit 3 homers over that span as well. I mentioned Kyle Schwarber's last performance last night for the Cubs. He is hitting 304 over his last 7 games, 7 for 23. Garrett Cooper, hot again. He is 12 for his last 28. That's a 429 average for Garrett Cooper of the Miami Marlins. And the thing about Cooper is he's multi-positional eligible, first base and outfield. So you get a corner infielder, first baseman, and outfielder. I really like that. And there's no pressure on Cooper. I mean, Miami's going nowhere. He's solidified himself in that lineup. So he very well can put up some solid numbers. as we head toward the ends of the season, and I think he's worth a good add. Kyle Tucker, called up, maybe on waiver wires, 6 for 20 in his short stint with the Astros. Asdrubal Cabrera, 8 for his last 16. Now, Cabrera does not play every day, but when he plays, he's been very productive for the Nationals. And they're facing some right-handed pitchers. I think I counted the rest of the week, they only faced 2 lefties. So he's worth an add if you have a need. And look, he plays second base, third base, and shortstop. So multiple positions there as well. Hunter Dozier, he cooled off. He's heated back up. He's 11 for his last 22. And here's a kid that I keep talking about with some regularity. I look, and he's just not added in many fantasy leagues. Adam Frazier for Pittsburgh. Yeah, 8 for his last 21. That's a 381 clip. Multi-positional eligible again. Jock Peterson hitting 417. And the Dodgers play right-handers this week. And so I bet Peterson's been picked up in your league, but if not, he's worth a look. How about Mauricio Dubon for San Francisco? Plays shortstop, plays third base, plays everywhere. 6 for his last 20. That's a 300 average. May be available in your leagues. Have you noticed Avisel Garcia for Tampa Bay? He's been heating up. Hitting 348 over his last 7 games. 8 for 23. Jurickson Profar for Oakland. 259, 7 for his last 27. Throw in a couple of homers. Robinson Cano coming off the IL, 6 for 15. Couple of homers, that's a 400 average. Joey Wendell hitting 375. He only plays against right-handers, but he's 6 for his last 16, and that 375 average could help you win a championship. I want to talk about a player for just a moment that could well be a difference maker heading down the stretch in your fantasy playoffs. And he has had a horrible season, hitting only 226, far and away from what we know he's capable of doing. Only 12 homers, only 38 RBIs, but his name is Matt Carpenter. And let's talk about his last few games, where he has gone 6 for his last 8, 2 for 3, 1 for 1, 2 for 3, 1 for 1. They're playing in Coors Field starting today for 3 games. Looking at the Coors Field pitchers that'll be going against St. Louis, you got to look at this and think maybe he's worth an add. Okay, today, St. Louis goes Michael Wacha versus Chichi Gonzalez, a right-hander who is 0-6 with a 7.29 ERA. The over and under today, I've not seen this big a number lately, 13.5, with St. Louis being the favorite. Remember, a right-handed pitcher for Colorado at Coors Field, Chichi Gonzalez, a 7.29 ERA. He's 0-6, and Matt Carpenter is a left-handed batter the last I checked. Tomorrow, they face Antonio Sensatella, who is 8-10 with a 7.19 ERA. And then on Thursday, just to add fuel to the fire, they face Tim Melville, who is a right-hander as well. So, you get 3 games at Coors, St. Louis. You get 3 right-handed pitchers. Matt Carpenter, he to me is worthy of an add, and he could make a big difference in your fantasy week this week, which is playoff week. Now, after the 3-game set, the weekend, the Cardinals close out with home against the Brewers, not known for aces on their pitching staff. Adam Hauser scheduled to toe the hill Friday, Jordan Lyles on Saturday, and on Sunday for Milwaukee, it's supposed to be Chase Anderson. So St. Louis faces no left-handed starters this whole week. Carpenter should get plenty of action, and he's 6 for his last 8. So, Matt Carpenter, wake up and listen to the show this morning. This is your chance to not only help your team secure a wild card spot, division spot, rather. This is a chance for you to become a fantasy hero. Yeah, you can become a fantasy hero. You can make me look really good as being a guru of fantasy predictions by just hitting the baseball at Coors Field against, you might say, mediocre to below mediocre starting pitching this week. I think Matt Carpenter is a must-add in fantasy this week. If you can add him, you're in a league where you can do that still. Pick him up, put him in the lineup. Let's see what happens, because I think what happens is going to be really good. Now, I also like to take a look at players who aren't playing this time of year. Mike Moustakas sat out again yesterday. He has a bruise on his hand. He continues to deal with the pain. Travis Shaw played third. Of course, Shaw has only one hit in his last 13 at-bats, so ignore him. But I also think you're also at the point in the season where you may have to cut bait with Mike Moustakas, since he's just not playing, and not playing means no points in fantasy. Didi Gregorius has been getting several days off. He didn't play yesterday. They call it a routine day off against a lefty. But don't you just see that happening with some regularity here? Mike Tauchman for the Yankees, a left calf strain, likely done for the season. I was listening to some radio yesterday. Ramon Laureano for Oakland, rookie phenom. He really played well till he got injured. He's back in the lineup. His manager was saying he's now favoring the other leg. He injured one leg. He's now favoring the other. He's going to get consistent days off over the remainder of the season. So Mark Canha played center field last night. Canha doesn't really have, in my opinion, enough upside to use going forward in daily contests if you're a daily player. But Laureano, that leg still bothering him. He's not going to be playing a lot going forward. I don't think he's worth a fantasy ad. Here's a tough one. Here's a tough one. Mike Trout remains out on Monday. He's had a toe injury. He was out of the starting lineup yesterday. It was the third game in a row he has missed due to a sore toe. So I'm wondering, what's up with Trout? When's he coming back? We're getting to that point where if you're behind in a fantasy playoff head-to-head, you got to make some tough choices. Now, do I want to cut Mike Trout? Absolutely not. But if I've got Mike Trout and Mike Moustakas, I'm probably cutting Moustakas and hanging on to Trout. Just a thought. Cody Bellinger, slumping, if you want to call it that. 0 for 3 Sunday. He's hitting .229 with 2 homers over his past 15 games. Cody Bellinger. Now, on the year, he's hitting .306. Remember when Bellinger was hitting .430? And we were talking about what kind of batting average he might finish the year at? And some procrastinators were saying he might finish at .340, .350. No way. He's not that kind of hitter. He's more of a .280, .290 hitter. And if this slump continues, that's where he's going to finish, .280, .290. He's not an MVP. He's not your National League MVP for sure, even though he has good numbers, 44 homers, 105 RBIs. But the RBIs have slowed down considerably over the second half. So have the home runs. Now, they do play the Orioles starting today. So if anything can cure a slump, it's Camden Yards and the home team. So we'll see how he breaks out, if he breaks out. Have you noticed Sean Manaea, who has it? 2 starts since coming back from the IL, a .75 ERA, 15 strikeouts. He's looked fantastic. He struck out 10 in his last outing on Sunday, a 3-1 win over Detroit. If you added him, congrats. Great pickup. The A's are saying that Jesus Luzardo will pitch out of the bullpen. He'll probably pitch more often. He's been stretched out. So you're looking at multiple innings. He may be worth an ad if you're in a holds league, if you need strikeout ratios, because he's going to strike out a bunch. But he's not going to start, it doesn't look like, for Oakland. Now, one more outing like Mike Fiers pitched last night, and he may be in the rotation, right? But not for the moment, not for the upcoming probably not this week. He won't be in the rotation, but we'll see how it does going forward. I got to throw in a little football here because I'm a huge Oakland Raider fan. And we all know about, well, if you don't know, you've been sleeping under a rock. So let me wake you up. All of the controversy and drama concerning Antonio Brown and how he wanted out of Oakland. And I knew this was coming. He wanted to be a Patriot to start with. The Patriots didn't want to give up draft picks to trade for him. So I think there was something going on there. I think there was some collusion going on. Hey, I'll act like a jerk. Oakland will cut me. I can go sign with who I want to. And as soon as I'm cut, the moment I'm available, New England, they'll pick me up. Because he knew they would. And they did. So Oakland starts last night without Antonio Brown. They play their hugest, is that even a word? They play their greatest rival, the Denver Broncos, who I have great disdain for. They play them at the Black Hole in Oakland, and they win, baby. Just win, baby. And they did. They put it on the Broncos last night. They're undefeated to start the season. I love to say that, even though they're only 1-0. And look out for the Raiders. They're back. I just had to say it. It just felt good. You don't get to do that very often when you're an Oakland Raider fan. And you can look after the season started. You've played a game or two or three or whatever, and you don't have any losses. So you take advantage while you can, right? So I did. One more player I want to talk about. Jackie Bradley Jr., one of the streakiest players in Major League Baseball. He went 3 for 3 last night against the Yankees. When no Red Sox was hitting, at least Jackie Bradley was. Now, a disappointing year, but is he, now that Boston is out of it, is he worth an ad off your waiver wire if you have a weakness in the outfield? Now, I'm not cutting anybody major, but I'm just saying Bradley, he's had a history of going on a week or two streak, and 3 for 3 against a lefty like Paxton, not too shabby, right? So let's look at our schedule for today, a full slate as opposed to last night, which it wasn't. The Yankees start off the night at Comerica Park in Detroit against the Tigers, who are 42-100. The Yankees have not determined. I think it's going to be Green, an opener role. But Edwin Jackson starting for Detroit, 3-9 with a 9.16 ERA. Look for the Yankees to score a lot and score a lot early in that game against Detroit. At 7:05, the Dodgers, we talked about this earlier, they're in Camden Yards. Buehler going for LA, Block going for the Orioles, Block, and his 10.95 ERA. Cody Bellinger, are you listening? Now, he's a lefty, so you're probably not going to see Jock Peterson tonight. You may not see Lux tonight. So check your lineup if you're setting a daily lineup to make sure you have a lot of Dodger right-handed bats in the lineup tonight in Baltimore. The Braves are playing the Phillies, Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. Max Fried for Atlanta, 16-4. What a great year against Jason Vargas for the Phillies. The Red Sox are in Rogers Center in Toronto, Ontario. Nathan Eovaldi, what a bust he's been with injuries and all. Big free agent signing after his great World Series performance. He'll be pitching tonight in Toronto. The Brewers and Marlins from Marlins Park. Anderson going for Miami. Hernandez going for the Brewers. D-backs and Mets. Zach Gallen at Citi Field in Flushing pitching for the D-backs. Zach Wheeler, a game of Zachs, pitching for the Mets. He's 10-7. Nationals and Twins, Target Field, Minneapolis. Anibal Sanchez for Washington. Jose Berrios for the Minnesota Twins. That's at 7:40. At 8:05, Globe Life Park in Arlington, Texas. Yarborough, 11-3, pitching really well lately for the Rays. Goes up against Lance Lynn, who's had a great season, 14-10 for the Rangers. That's at 8:05. The A's, after the whipping they took last night, they're back at Minute Maid Park for Game 2 of 4. Tanner Roark, who's pitched really well after the trade, going for Oakland. Wade Miley, who had a bad outing his last outing. Oakland looks to jump back tonight, and they got a good chance against Wade Miley. I don't know about Wade Miley making the playoff roster. I really don't, because I think when you get to the playoffs, you're going to stack your bullpen. Miley needs a good start here if he's going to secure that spot for a playoff roster. Royals White Sox, guaranteed rate field in Chicago. Jacob Junis and Ivan Nova. That's at 8:10. At 8:40, Michael Wacha, as we said earlier, and the Cardinals go to Coors Field to take on Chichi Gonzalez in his 7.29 ERA. At 8:40 p.m., look for runs to come in bunches, like manna from heaven. Pirates and Giants, Mitch Keller and Johnny Cueto making his 2019 debut tonight at home, Oracle Park. Cueto against the Pirates. Probably going to throw about 5 innings in that game, but look for Cueto to be effective. He could be a sneaky add in daily fantasy today. Plesac for Cleveland at Angel Stadium against Suarez, 10:07. 2 more late games. The Reds at T-Mobile Park in Seattle. Jake Bauer, what a horrible year he's had against Justice Sheffield, former Yankee great. That's at 10:10 tonight from T-Mobile Park. And finally, the Cubs and Padres from Petco at San Diego. It's going to be Quintana for the Cubs against Bolaños for San Diego. The Cubs with that lead in the American National League wild card, and Quintana, who's pitched really well of late. So those are our games for tonight. Tonight at 6, you got me back. You got Chaplin tonight. Football talk tonight. We'll be on. It's a big day for me, isn't it? I'll be on at 6 with Phil, or by myself. I'll be on at 9 with Phil, and Phil's sandwiches in between me at 7. So there you go. Chappie, hope you have a great day. Good to see everybody in the chat room this morning. Support your podcasters here on Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports. Go watch some baseball tonight in between listening to Chaplin and Arnie, and we'll talk to you later. For right now, this is Arnie and Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. Have a great day, everybody.